Lying in bed and smoking my sixth or seventh cigarette of the morning, I'm wondering what the hell I'm going to do today. Oh yeah, I got to write this thing. But that's not work, really, is it? It feels somehow shifty and dishonest making a buck writing. Writing anything is a treason of sorts. Even the cold recitation of facts, which is hardly what I've been up to, is never the thing itself. And the events described are somehow diminished in the telling. A perfect bowl of bouillabaisse, that first all-important oyster plucked from the bassin d'Arcachon, both are made cheaper, less distinct in my memory once I've written about them. Whether I missed a few other things or described them inadequately, like the adventures of the amazing Stephen Temple or my day in the life, are less important. Our movements through time and space seem somehow trivial compared to a heap of boiled meat and broth, the smell of saffron, garlic, fish bones, and Pernod.
A response. Anthony, it's an interesting task to write a letter not only to someone who will never read it for a few reasons, but someone you've never met as well. Also for a few reasons. I've recently finished Kitchen Confidential and I have a few thoughts. I know it's nearly a quarter of a century later, but I was only 5 when it was released. I needed a second to find it. A comedian with a cooking podcast, and I will sheepishly admit to having never found myself drawn to your work in my 20s or earlier, I figured what better person to listen to as I make meals for my guests, hoping that a body of work will one day reflect itself on the mirror that I feel is scarred in my soul. I loved listening to your tales of the underbelly. From clam shacks to the top of New York City, it seemed like a story to idolize, especially since it was done your way. Your way, however, does include something that goes against every fiber of my being. I've been called many things, a comedian, a podcaster, a wide range of homophobic slurs, but what I call myself and always have is a writer. To hear you say writing isn't work, but something shifty and dishonest to make a buck off of, was like a global G2 sharpening in my ear canal. This is all written from a place of no monetary gain, published on a platform that has been operating in the red since its inception. Does that make it more honest in your mind? More worthy? Sure. Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life is an angle to take, but then that would be shifty and dishonest. You know more than anyone the things you love are work, and something worth working hard at. So what's the difference between a ripped notebook page and a funky-tasting foie gras? Nothing. They both mean shit, because our work came up short and that infuriates us. You mentioned the idea as well that writing never captures the initial experience to its fullest emotion. The events described are somehow diminished in the telling, you said. That exactly is why we write, I argue. We all know how unreliable an eye or oral witness is, and a retelling of stories passed down is exactly how we ended up with godlike William Wallace figures shooting bolts of lightning from the ass. Writing grounds us to the event, and going back to it should make you remember that first oyster fondly, remembering the sun beaming while Monsieur Saint-Georges scooped it out of the water, not wondering, did I miss anything? The death of the author is an ironic literary theory to bring up when the author is in fact literally dead. But even if we agree with Barthes that once the material is published and the author and their intent no longer matters, whether they included everything or not, wouldn't you rather it be your retelling of the oyster people are reading, theorizing about, rather than someone doing it for you because you had a lonely night in a France hotel? Writing is a privilege and a luxury. Anybody who whines about writer's block should be forced to clean squid all day. Those are your words. I've done both, and been paid nothing for both as well. I'll take the squid. At least then I can write a joke about it that will make people laugh. People will always get hungry again. A good story can sustain someone for life. So as far as writing being shifty or dishonest, Tony, I have 4 words you know well from your line of business. Shut the fuck up. And I hope you found serenity. Sincerely, a writer who puts the work in.